It's just a momentum flow at the moment. A brutal display of power tennis from Jelena Ostapenko. She was well down in that second set, but she roared back.
Jelena Ostapenko, a former Grand Slam champion, nearly got sent home by a 20-year-old Filipina at the Linz Open. Eala had a 5-1 lead in the second set and was one game away from closing it out. What happened next had fans completely stunned. This match told a story that the final scoreline does not even come close to capturing. If Eala had closed out that second set, do you think she wins the deciding third? Drop your honest take in the comments. Let's be very clear about what almost happened in Linz on Wednesday.
Former champion from 2 years ago is through to a third.
Jelena Ostapenko is a former French Open champion. She is seeded fourth at this tournament. She hits the ball with a ferocity that makes experienced players uncomfortable, and she has been one of the most dangerous opponents on the WTA Tour for nearly a decade. She does not get rattled easily, and she does not hand matches away to players ranked below her without a fight. And she almost lost to Alex Eala in straight sets. Not in a close straight sets match where both players traded punches and the better player edged it. Eala had a 5-1 lead in the second set, 5-1, against a seeded former Grand Slam champion on clay. At that point in the match, Eala was not just competing. She was in complete control and one comfortable service hold away from forcing a deciding third set. The final score was 6-4, 7-5 in favor of Ostapenko, and the match lasted 1 hour and 43 minutes. But that scoreline is doing a lot of work to hide just how close this match came to going the other way. Let's go through it properly, because the details matter here.
It was a set that was going Alex Eala's way, who was a breakup, but Ostapenko has roared back. She took the last 4 games.
First set, Ostapenko came out fast and took control early. That is standard for her. She hits the ball so flat and so hard that if she finds her range early, points are over before you have had time to set your feet. She saved 3 break points and dealt with her own double break to lead 4-2. Once she got that cushion, Eala could not contain the return winners coming back at her, and Ostapenko took the first set 6-4. Losing the first set to a seeded opponent who is striking the ball cleanly is not a crisis. It is a problem you need to solve, and Eala solved it. She came out in the second set and immediately held serve. Then she broke Ostapenko, consolidated the break with her own serve, and she did it efficiently. Ostapenko had no answer in those opening games. Eala dropped just 6 points across the first 4 games of the second set. 6 points. That is a player who is not just playing better tennis. That is a player who has figured out exactly where the gaps are and is ruthlessly going after them. She pushed the lead to 5-1, and at that point the match was hers to close. And then Ostapenko did what top players do when their backs are against the wall. She started going for everything, because when you are down 1-5 in a second set, you have nothing to protect. Every ball becomes a chance to hit a winner, and some of those chances start going in. Ostapenko found a piercing triple break, 3 consecutive breaks in a row. She leveled the set at 5-5 and then held her serve for 4 straight games to flip the entire dynamic of the match. The momentum swing was complete. A player who was being systematically taken apart at 1-5 had suddenly won 6 of the last 8 games and was serving with the confidence of someone who had just discovered they were not going to lose after all. Eala could not stop it. The 5-1 lead became a 5-7 loss, and Ostapenko advanced to the quarterfinals. Now, let's talk about Ostapenko's reaction after the match, because she said something on court that was very telling. She said she is beating players she did not beat before, and she feels she is on the right path. Let's just sit with that for a second. A former Grand Slam champion, seeded 4th at this tournament, describing this win as evidence she is making progress. She needed 43 minutes and a complete comeback from 1-5 down to close it out. That is the version of Ostapenko that feels like she is on the right path. That tells you something about how good Eala actually was in that second set. Earlier in the match, Ostapenko also complained to the umpire about fan noise causing a distraction. A seasoned professional who has played in front of hostile crowds at Grand Slams, in Davis Cup contexts, in matches with enormous pressure, stopped to complain about crowd interference in a WTA 500 event in Austria. That does not happen when you are completely comfortable on the court. That happens when you are already unsettled and looking for something to hold on to. The Filipino fans in the crowd were clearly loud and clearly behind Eala, and Ostapenko noticed. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture here, because this match is part of a larger story about where Eala is in her development and what the clay court season could mean for her trajectory. She went into Linz ranked 46 in the world after dropping from 32 following her defeat to Linda Noskova in Miami. That Miami drop hurt because she had gone deep at the same event the previous year and could not replicate the result. Defending points from strong previous runs is one of the hardest recurring challenges on the professional tour. The ranking system is ruthless about it. You get no credit for what you did 12 months ago, only for what you do right now. She collected 60 ranking points in Linz from winning her first round match and has moved up to 45 in the live rankings, one place, after a week of work that included pushing a former Grand Slam champion to the absolute limit. That is the reality of how the point structure works at this level, and it is genuinely unforgiving. The Stuttgart WTA 500 is next on her schedule. Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, Iga Świątek, all of them in the same draw. If the Linz match is any indication of where her clay court game is right now, that tournament is going to be a very interesting watch. Because what she showed against Ostapenko in that second set was not just good tennis, it was tactically intelligent tennis. She identified that Ostapenko's aggressive flat ball was harder to deal with when her own positioning was passive. She started taking the ball earlier, redirecting pace rather than trying to generate it from neutral positions, using angles to pull Ostapenko out of her preferred strike zones. It worked for long enough to build a 5-1 lead against one of the biggest hitters in women's tennis. The problem was closing it out, and that is the specific area where the work needs to happen between now and Roland Garros. Finishing sets against top players requires a serve that holds up under pressure. When you are at 5-1 and serving for the set or one break from the set, the opponent has nothing to lose and everything to gain by going for big returns. Your serve needs to buy you free points in those moments because your ground game is doing less work when the opponent is swinging freely. That is the area former British number 1 Greg Rusedski flagged when discussing her game recently. He said the serve needs to get better. The Linz second set illustrated exactly why he said it. But let's be honest about the context here. Ostapenko is genuinely one of the most difficult opponents in women's tennis to play against when she finds her range. She hits angles that do not exist for most players. Her backhand return is one of the most dangerous shots on the tour. She has beaten players ranked in the top 5 and top 10 throughout her career specifically because, when she is on, she is almost impossible to control. Eala pushed her to the brink and had her thoroughly outplayed for a significant stretch of this match. At 20 years old, in her first clay court tournament of the season against a seeded player 8 years her senior with a Grand Slam title on her resume. Let's also talk about what it means to have had that lead and still come back from the loss mentally. A lot of young players would crumble after squandering a 5-1 advantage. The match would feel like a defeat that proves something negative about your ability to compete at this level. That is the kind of loss that follows some players for months. The what could have been type that sits heavy. But based on everything Eala has shown over the past year, that is not her pattern. She lost the first set to Laura Siegemund in Miami and came back to win. She was tested in the second set tiebreak by Magda Linette, the same Linette who knocked out Iga Świątek and closed it out 7-2. She does not spiral. She processes and comes back. The Linz loss is not a spiral moment. It is a data point. Here is exactly where the game broke down. Here is the specific scenario that needs addressing. Here is what to work on before Stuttgart. And the clay court season has barely started. Linz is the opening act. Stuttgart, Madrid, Rome, and Roland Garros still lie ahead. Each of those events is bigger than the last. Each of them offers more points. Each of them gives her another opportunity to do what she almost did to Ostapenko, only this time going all the way. The 5-1 lead she built in that second set was not a fluke. It was not Ostapenko having a bad day. It was Eala finding a gear in the middle of a match against a high-quality opponent and taking over. That gear exists. The question is whether she can access it earlier, sustain it longer, and finish it out when the scoreboard is in her favor. Stuttgart is going to tell us a lot. Sabalenka and Gauff and Świątek are not Ostapenko. They are harder. But the version of Eala that dropped just 6 points in 4 games at 5-1 in the second set in Linz is a player who can take a set off anyone on the tour on clay if she is hitting that level. Ostapenko barely survived. She knows it. She said it herself in the language of a player relieved to still be in the tournament. And the fact that a former champion needed a complete comeback from 1-5 down to beat a 20-year-old Filipina in her first clay event of the season is not a loss story. It is a statement. The fans in that crowd who watched it unfold were not shocked because something strange happened. They were shocked because for the better part of a set, they were watching someone announce herself on clay in a way that made a seeded Grand Slam champion look like she had no answers. That announcement is not going away. It just gets louder from here. Ostapenko survived, but she will not be in a hurry to face Eala again on clay. That second set was a statement, and Stuttgart is up next with Sabalenka, Goff, and Świątek all in the draw. Hit the like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you think happens in Stuttgart. Is this the week Eala breaks into the top 20?